think about World War II, typically you do not think of Major League Baseball in American society. Although baseball did not directly impact the outcome on the battlefield, it made a valuable contribution on the home front. During this time, many young Americans were required to make large sacrifices, one being having to serve in the war. Baseball was one thing that remained the same during this horrific time. Baseball had the ability to entertain citizens of every age and was able, for the time being, to bring them back to what they felt was normal before the war had started. Thanks to President Roosevelt's green light letter, he allowed baseball to be played throughout the war for pastime. President Roosevelt's green light letter, written January 15, 1942, sums up Roosevelt's position on the importance of baseball. President Roosevelt said, "I honestly feel that it would be best for the country to keep baseball going. There will be fewer people unemployed, and everybody will work longer hours and harder than ever before, and that means that they ought to have a chance for recreation and for taking their minds off their work even more than before." President Roosevelt was eager to provide an activity for working-class people to take their minds off the war's hardships. The President suggested for more night games. That was a major reason attendance didn't decrease. The number of people that attended day games decreased because the people had to work more in order to support the war effort. Baseball was the only sport that was national in the 1940s, therefore it was very popular. In result of that, Roosevelt was very focused on baseball remaining popular during that time because there was no other sports that were able to entertain people. Today, there are many different professional sports. Following Pearl Harbor, overwhelming patriotism spread throughout the nation, causing many young men to enlist, including future Hall of Fame players Hank Greenberg and Bob Feller, who gave up their careers to be a part of the war effort. Greenberg summed up what all the players at the time were feeling, telling the Sporting News that if there's any last message to be given to the public, let it be that I'm going to be a good soldier. People didn't like the fact professional baseball players were able to avoid being drafted into war. Many people thought it was unfair. Private John E. Stevenson expressed the more widely held view that baseball is part of the American way of life. Remove it and you remove something from the lives of American citizens, soldiers, and sailors. It is a common belief that Major League Baseball's attendance suffered greatly during the war, despite an endorsement from President Roosevelt and the addition of more night games. In 1941, the last season prior to America's entry into the war, Major League Baseball enjoyed its fifth highest attendance total of all time, with 9,689,603 spectators. Although attendance decreased by about 1 million during 1942 and 1943 seasons to 7,465,911, the 1944 season saw a return to pre-war attendance levels, and by 1945, the last war season, the league had an all-time high attendance of 10,041,123. If you compare league attendance numbers between the first two war seasons and the last two, you will find that attendance increased 22%, proving that Americans' need for baseball increased as the war dragged on. These numbers prove that during the early war years, Americans were distracted, but as the war went on, more people turned to the sport as a form of escape and entertainment. What many thought was a questionable decision by President Roosevelt to allow baseball to continue during the war, the decision clearly turned out to be a wise move. When the original series of doubts set in about if the game should continue, Roosevelt's green light letter silenced many of the critics. Many came to realize that without baseball, there would be no national sport for Americans to rally around and distract themselves from the war's needy sacrifices, clearly lowering the morale of its citizens and soldiers. While the level of play during these wartime years were considerably lower due to over 500 major league players doing service, baseball's popularity increased and attendance soared. After surviving World War II, baseball's status kept increasing to the level of popularity it enjoys today at a frantic rate up to where it is today. Thanks to President Roosevelt and baseball's loyal fan base, not only did the sport survive, but it helped America out in its own little way, even if it does not show up in the history books.